Hey, welcome back to Talking Reality Podcast. In today's episode, we are talking martial arts and the impact it can have on your mental health with Tom Karpinski. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, good. Good. It's nice to be back. It's obviously been a long time since we've done a podcast. I need to quickly explain to the viewers. It's just myself today. My co-host, Michael, has had to take some time off, compassionate leave. So we were in the gym a few months ago and he's realised that his arms are actually regressing, not progressing. So he had a chat with HR, Gaz, and we've agreed that Mike can take some time off to work on his gains, essentially. So if all the viewers and listeners could, spare a thought for him, because it's obviously been a tough time for him. Anyway, back to the show. On a more serious note, welcome to the podcast, Tom. So let's talk martial arts, and I think we'll dive straight in. How and why did you get into it?
So, I have pretty much always done martial arts. I started when I was 6, and to be honest, it's just taken from there, really. I've been on and off for years. But
you started when you were 6?
6.
Why was that your decision, or is it like something that came naturally from you, or were you your parents involved? What?
So my mum and dad did kickboxing at the time, and then I would sit on the side and watch, and then I guess they potentially just put me in a class to start myself, doing taekwondo with the same instructor as them just an hour before. And then
so you started with taekwondo?
Started with taekwondo.
And kickboxing? Just
taekwondo at the start. I got up to blue belt, which was a few belts before black. And then just sort of packed it in. Got to an age where I wasn't really interested in it anymore. I didn't compete or anything back then. And I just got into different hobbies.
Okay, so you compete a little bit as a youngster, then you have a bit of a break, you being a lad, going out with the boys, whatever, yeah. Then what gets you back into it?
So, all through comp, I took up rugby, loved the rough and tumble, used to be in the forwards. And then we got to like youth level rugby, and I just didn't like all the weird stuff that they do, getting wrecked and doing mad stuff. But I wanted something a bit more, so I thought, do you know what, I'm going to go back to kickboxing. So I went back with my old coach that was my taekwondo instructor, but did the kickboxing instead. And And then
what did that lead to? So like, you go back to kickboxing. Is it something that were you naturally good at?
Now I've trained more and done all the disciplines, like a huge range of disciplines. I would say that I'm not a naturally good striker. I can box and, I can do stuff like that, only through like pushing myself and experience, but I am far from the best at it, grappling does come way more naturally to me. Way more naturally.
Okay. So, you go back to kickboxing, right? Talk to me about the journey from you, stepping back into that world. Because then you fast forward a few years, you start competing in shows.
Yeah.
What does that journey look like?
So I'd started kickboxing again, and just like pushing myself. I was even going for runs, and I hate running. Absolutely hate running.
I can relate,
yeah.
Man.
With what you're doing at the moment. Yeah,
I can relate.
And I was just training all the time, but I wanted like a bit more. I thought, what can I actually do with this? So I'd started doing a couple of interclubs for points fighting.
Right.
And the first one, they had put me in against a black belt.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember my actual belt colour, but I was one of the first sort of belts. I wasn't far into it, And he went to head kick me with a roundhouse, and I caught it and threw him on the floor. But I got told off because you can't do that. So I was like, okay. But that was my natural reaction sort of thing.
Why are you not allowed to do that?
It's just the sport.
So that's one of the rules within kickboxing.
More within point style.
Okay.
And I think you can in K1 as well. You can catch the kick. But yeah, you can't really clinch and do anything like that. But yeah, I had caught his kick and threw him on the floor. And the ref was like, that was wicked. You can't do that. And I was like, okay. Didn't know what to do then. So he just sort of continued and I lost it on points. And then I'd had my next fight in the same sort of day and tournament. And I had fought this other lad who was a little bit taller. He was a bit younger than me. And I had just punched him quite a lot of times, to the nose and stuff. And I had thought, I busted him up a bit, But he had done a few spinning kicks or something and made contact with them, so scored more points. And I had lost again, and I was like, but he looks a bit bust up, and he's gassed, and I look okay, but I've lost. What's that about? And I just started to change the journey then, I started to look for more. I was thinking, watched MMA, looks really cool. Is there anywhere around me that does it? And then I had found the gym in Newport and started to train. And I realised then, that was the real deal. That was actual fighting. It was really hard. It wasn't,
What did it stress you out a lot? You talk about that second fight where you were busting this guy up, and if the rules weren't kickboxing, would you have won that fight?
I mean,
say if you were fighting on a different
yeah,
discipline.
You would think so. In my head I thought because I'd come out unscathed and he was a bit bust up, but it really would depend on a rule set, But in my mind I had thought well, I didn't really lose that fight, didn't do anything to me, But that is just the way that it goes. That is just those rules, I lost in those rules. It was tough.
Okay, so then that is pivotal then for you stepping into mixed martial arts as opposed to focusing on, say, kickboxing or taekwondo where you have been previously.
Yeah.
So how does that happen? What happens in that experience?
I started going to Newport. I was getting absolutely battered. Oh man.
Were you actually going to the gyms or just getting battered in Newport?
Yeah, just going to Newport MMA.
Okay.
Getting absolutely battered. They were just a different kettle of fish.
Were these guys who were sort of experienced in multi-disciplines then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some of them were high level amateur and sort of domestic level pros. So we were sparring with some of these lads and they were beasts. I'd never experienced something like that. And the kickboxing being light contact compared to MMA being completely full contact was a big eye opener as well. Yeah. So I had transitioned between the two for a bit, going between both. And then in the end I was like, no, I'm stopping this kickboxing. I'm going there, and it literally just progressed from there.
Was there a moment where you first got hit by someone who was good, where you thought, "Fuck,
yeah,
this is different. this is
all the time.
This is different to getting hit by just your average Joe."
Yeah. But then even throughout the whole journey, there's loads of moments where I've been shocked in training and thought wow, that was a big hit.
That guy can hit.
Yeah. I've sparred with quite a few people. Some of them have literally hit me and just sent chills down my spine,
Fucking hell.
Yeah, big shots.
So, okay, so there's been a journey, and you get to this point where you're sort of engrossed in this mixed martial arts world. How long does it take you to get to the point where you're going to your first show?
Ooh, I think I trained for a couple of years before having my first fight. I think it's only because it was back then. This day and age is a little bit different. There's a lot of interclub type scenarios where you can do no headshot fights and stuff like that rather than being on a show. So there's a lot more opportunity now than there was then. But I trained with Newport for probably 6 to 9 months, maybe a tiny bit more. And then I went up to Abertillery then, to Tulare Combat at the time. So having transitioned, I was never going to fight straight away anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sort of build your rapport with that coach in the gym.
Makes sense.
And then they need to have the confidence in your ability, if that makes sense. That
Yeah, I get
will
that,
send
man.
him to fight now, sort of thing. And yeah, I was probably with Tulare Combat for a good year and a half, something like that. And then I started like showing interest to my coach, and I had done some grappling competitions first, and he was happy with how I was progressing, so we went from there, like, you know, and started the actual MMA fights.
Talk to me about the psychology of what's going on before you step into your first big fight.
I think it's the
Because
lead up to it is just a huge roller coaster. So before you fight, in general, if someone was to fight you on the street on a night out, you wouldn't know what's happening. So there can be no anxiety really, unless you know something's brewing. But when you go to fight properly, as I would say properly, you know, having a scheduled fight, you know you're fighting this person in this place at this time, you know, it's under this rule set, you know, for 6 odd weeks beforehand, and all you can literally think about is, I need to train, I need to beat this person. What if this person does this? What if they try that? What will I do? And you are always constantly running all these different scenarios in your head of what the outcome might be of that fight. So there's like, there can be, especially at the start when it's a complete unknown, you've never fought before, like a huge amount of like anxiety building up in that.
were you scared?
I wasn't scared of the person. I was scared of losing. Didn't want to lose, like, you know. I mean, and quite rightly so, because if you're fighting, you should never want to lose. You should always be aiming to win, you know. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was. Yes, it's never like a fear of the person, unless, you know, if you were fighting someone with a huge name. But if you're fighting them, then you should be good enough to fight them.
Yeah,
so
completely.
you shouldn't be scared, if that makes sense.
Did you win?
No, not on the first fight.
And how did I know it sounds like a stupid question, right? But how did losing make you feel? Because losing can do a multitude of things to people. It can make someone feel like, fuck, I don't want to feel like this again. I'm going to go twice as hard next time. I'm going to fucking chuck myself into this training. Or you can lose and be like, do you know what, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So what impact did it have on you?
I think with that first one, he had outscored me well on the takedowns. And takedowns can score in your favour quite heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It looks dominant, and to be honest, it is quite dominant. So we were very like to and fro, but he won the points battle of scoring the rounds. So I lost fair and square, but I didn't feel beat up. He didn't beat me up, you know. So again, a bit like the kickboxing ones, I felt a bit like, right, I just need to train harder now and get to the next one, and then I need to undo the mistakes of that. I need to be scoring the rounds, like, you know.
So what happens in your next fight?
So my second fight was a no headshot fight as well. It was very. I was winning the grappling exchanges in the first round. I didn't get any. I wasn't close to a submission or anything, but I was on him. Then the second round, he gets me in this choke against the cage. He had me in like a high elbow guillotine, and my head literally like it was gonna pop. I was like as red as my hoodie, thinking I'm about to pass out. The whole world was like closing in and going grey and dimming out. But I was fighting this choke, just sliding my hand in, trying to get out. And then at like the pinnacle moment of where I was about to pass out, he let go because his arms had gassed. And I managed to get back up, start fighting again, and then like win the round dominant.
Did you win the fight?
I won the fight on a split decision. It was really close on their cards. But I thought I had won. I was happy with that one. That I had definitely won, but my coach made us fight again on the next show.
What happened in the What happened in
So
the,
the
in the
next
repeat?
show, same opponent, a lad named Benji. He's a great lad. I'm really good friends with him now. Fought Benji again. It was headshot standing only this time, which is what we used to call semi-pro.
Right.
And I beat him first round, about a minute and a half by an armbar. So it was a completely different fight.
So you beat him comfortably in the second fight.
He literally came charging at me, went to take me down. I uppercutted him, bust his nose. It was just like blood all over me. And then he was trying to fight me on top, but I had sort of wiggled my way into an armbar and just absolutely whammed it on as hard as I could. I thought, I'm winning this fight, And I got the first round sub. And then when I stood up afterwards, there was blood all over me. But no one quite knew. I didn't even know where the blood was coming from. I didn't see that I had busted his nose, And I don't even know if he knew. But literally, there's blood everywhere. I was thinking, where the hell's all this blood come from? And it was from his nose, But
So you broke his nose?
I had bust the top of his nose, the bridge. I had bust open.
So his blood just pouring out.
Yeah, it was my first experience like that, Coming from light contact and traditional martial art backgrounds, don't really see a lot of that.
When you compare and contrast it, I suppose, to the bit where you referred to the kickboxing fight you had, where you sort of grab someone's leg and you're not allowed to do that. And the referee's like, to then fast forward it and you're busting someone's nose up.
Yeah.
And I suppose it is it opens people's eyes. Someone who's like a layman like me who doesn't understand the sports in great detail. It's very, very different, isn't it?
The seriousness of that sport.
Yeah, MMA's different gravy essentially.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Complete different kind of beast. It is a complete different thing.
If I was to ask you then, so you've obviously had a lot of fights. Yeah, I mean you've trained. How many years have you been training?
With the MMA, it's since starting MMA, about 12, 13 years.
So a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long time.
I mean, you've got experience. I suppose to give perspective to the viewer, the listener.
I've seen a huge change in it from when I had started to now.
In what context?
Just the level of everything. It's so much more mainstream now. Even at amateur level, the level I would have fought at before. Kids these days are they've trained all their life through being a kid. They've trained 10 years already, from 6 till 16 or 8 till 18. Do you know what I mean? They've already had 10 years experience. They then get into MMA, training like a full-time athlete, twice a day, 6 days a week. It is literally the only thing they do. And then you have someone like me then, that essentially I'm a family man, I work, so training has to fit in around all of that, and then trying to fight someone is a full-time fighter, is just a complete different kettle of fish these days.
I suppose there's probably a number of reasons for that. There's no doubt the evolution of Instagram, TikTok now. The fact that you can go on there, you can YouTube, you can go on, you can listen to podcasts of your favorite fighters, you can watch fighting wherever you are, whenever you want. Listen to the best coaches in the world. It's everywhere, isn't it? Yeah.
Literally everywhere.
And the UFC's just blown up. People like McGregor have completely changed. I get why it's blown up in the way it has.
Yeah.
And I suppose there's money in it now, isn't there?
Once you get huge money.
Once you get to that higher level, I imagine there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah, it's a very cutthroat thing with the money. Even breaking into the UFC at an entry level, you are still, a lot of people still work around that. They're still having a job.
Same as boxing, though. I think. Yeah, it's bizarre, really, when you think about it. You look at unless you are at the top level, boxing's a really good example of it. That unless you're at the top level, Tony Bellew was on a podcast talking about the fact that until he fought and won an actual world championship belt, he was basically broke from his own.
Yeah.
When he was talking about his career. And he said one of the main reasons he went for those David Haye fights was because he needed that big
cash
payday.
badly.
Even though he was a very high level fighter, very good competitive fighter.
Yeah.
Wasn't making that. The
money in fighting is hard. It's a hard way to make a living.
Whereas you compare that to say football, where even when you first enter the game, you're making serious money. So I suppose. You got to really want it, haven't you?
Oh, badly. You got to be so... It's one of them things where you have to be so hungry and after it to do it, because the beatings that you put yourself through, like mentally and physically, to get even an amateur, like you have to be committed and you have to be seriously on it, because
I think that's why
there's no other way to do it.
I think that's why you see so many high-level fighters that have come from really difficult backgrounds, because there's a level of there's the level of grit, determination, hunger that you wouldn't necessarily have if you've grown up in a more comfortable
If you have a comfortable life, you don't need to make a hard way of living, do you?
That's a fair point, man. To take it back to the conversation back to your personal experience, if I was to ask you what's the highest high you've experienced throughout your relationship with mixed martial arts, fighting, what comes to mind?
My highest high would be my favourite moment, looking back in hindsight, which was a win I had. I was on a 2-fight losing streak, and I come back and I had beat this lad in a minute and a half by TKO, and it was my favourite win to date. And to be fair, just knowing I had come and I had a bit of a tough time before it, and I was really desperate, hungry for the win, to pull it out the bag the way I did, just felt amazing. And
is that the fight you just showed me?
That is the fight I showed you
off screen.
Off screen.
Talk to me about that, just for the viewers.
Yeah. So it was against a lad named John McDevitt. I was 2 wins and 3 losses at the time. So, I had negative record. I was wanting to level the record back out. 2-fight losing streak, which doesn't look good. It's not good in general for anything. And I was really chomping at the bit to get back on track and get going again. And we basically came out, feeling each other out a little bit. There wasn't a lot of action on the stand-up. I managed to take him down, and I had hit him with a couple of big knees with ground and pound against the cage. And when you're grappling against the cage, and especially when you're trying to pin someone down, there's a lot of feeling to it. There's a lot of feeling out to it. And you can feel when they're pushing back against you, trying to get up. You can feel when they're not really trying a lot. So you know when your openings are. And I dropped a couple of heavy strikes. He wasn't really moving. And I just absolutely went hell for leather to try and finish him. And it even come to a point where I just sort of started machine gunning my hands, it felt like. And the ref, I was thinking come on, ref, he hasn't moved in ages. And then the ref finally stopped it. And it just that feeling of euphoria almost was just, I don't know. It's hard to describe.
What does it feel like when you've got a guy beneath you, a foot... No, guys. I don't mean that. Oh yeah.
Well,
I mean in this context, Jesus Christ. What does it feel like when you got a guy beneath you, right? That you are beating the fuck out of? What does that feel like? Because it's not something most humans experience in that context where you've got a crowd of people watching you beat the fuck out of someone.
I think it's weird because you're controlled whilst you're doing it. So I knew what I was doing and everything that I was trying to finish him, and I knew exactly what I was doing at the times I was doing it. It wasn't like I had just lost my mind and started flailing everywhere, but I was solely just hunting for the TKO. That was literally, I knew that so far of me doing that, the ref is going to have to stop it. So I just absolutely let him have it until the ref did stop that moment, It's
I mean, it looks good on camera, I must say.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of fights, right?
10 MMA fights.
But listen, take away from the pro fights, right, or the whatever level of fights. You've had a lot of fights in the gym.
Yeah.
Throughout your life,
Everywhere.
you've had a lot of fights, right? You've probably been beaten up, and you've beat other guys up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are you a confrontational person?
No, I hate it. Hate it.
And I've asked that question purposefully because we had this discussion off camera, and I find that so fascinating that someone who has got up in front of crowds and fought people, lost fights, won fights, beat the fuck out of people like you've just explained, bust people's nose up, bust people's face up, but you're not a confrontational person.
Absolutely hate it. I couldn't think of anything worse to do with my day than to have a confrontation with someone. It just makes me feel sick. It's awful.
And I think that's what I find that interesting, because we spoke about that point where a lot of people will say that whole thing of I see red, and when I'm angry,
I hate that.
When I'm angry, I see red, right? And I think that you hear a lot about that when it comes to like people who are violent, right? But like having fights in a controlled way, in the way that you do, and in a competitive, respectful way, it just kind of highlights the point that it's completely different, isn't it? And you're like,
no, completely different. And you got to think as well, you're training to be there. You're not just two people on a Saturday night that have just met. Or, giving it big dicks in the pub. And, you've bumped across someone in the bar, and next thing you know, there's arms swinging everywhere. Like, you have trained to be able to beat each other up, in multiple different ways, to be able to finish a fight however that fight plays out, to be able to, try your best to finish it.
I just think that's really fascinating, and I think if I just find it, blew my mind a little bit, because I would think that to some degree you'd have to be, I suppose maybe that's specific to you though, because there are some fighters that are clearly love confrontation. Like
I know of quite a few lads that will not hesitate to pull the trigger, and they are unbelievable fighters. But if you cross the line with them, they're going to be a lot quicker than I would be to give you a good hard night of wake up and leave me alone, like,
so I suppose, and I ask you this as well, obviously, deny that have you ever had, because you're trained and you've been a good fighter and it's your passion, has anyone ever wanted to have a go with you?
Never.
Which I find that interesting, because
ever since I started MMA, to be honest, all the time, I've never really had anyone come up to me in my face and be like, let's have it out, ever. But then I don't look for it either. So, even if someone had given me the crosswords, I'd just be a bit like, oh, all right, mate. I'm not like, oh, what have you just done? Looking for the fight back,
But do you think one of the reasons for that is because you've got nothing to prove?
I've got absolutely nothing to prove.
Exactly.
What have I got to prove to someone on Saturday night?
Exactly.
If they wanted to fight me, come to the gym, and I'll prove my point in the gym.
Exactly. And it makes a fair point, and I think that's why I look at martial arts, and I think it's such a powerful thing to get people on a positive path in life.
Yeah.
I wish that it was more engrossed or ingrained in like our education system.
Yeah.
I wish they teach it to kids.
You look at like America. In America, I have wrestling in school.
Yeah, I know.
All the way through school. And what a discipline to have, because they learn to compete at huge levels, massive levels, like huge crowds, wrestling all the time. They cut weight, they fight in huge divisions, and they're like proper professional athletes, and they're kids. But in this school, we just don't have it.
Yeah,
we just don't have it.
It's
and
sad.
I think it's a massive letdown.
You look at things like the issues we've got with knife crime is massive in this country, especially in places like London.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think, more often than not, it's always about people proving something. It's ego.
I find as well,
it's things built on ego.
Yeah, and if you've got to go out your way, I can't say I've never really tried to go and stab someone, but if I was going to go and have a conversation with someone, I would just fight them. Because, I suppose in my mind, I'm confident in myself and my ability that I'd be able to win the confrontation. Whereas a personal view, I would say, if you have to take a weapon to a fight, you are not so confident in your ability to fight and beat that person one-on-one, in a fair manner. Years ago, everyone just used to go around a backfield and you'd have a fight. You look at like the travelling community and all, they just have a fight. Fair fight. They have their dispute. And a lot of times, everyone's friends after it anyway.
But it goes back to that point of respect, doesn't it? And I think
really
that's
does.
something that's lacking. I asked you what your highest high was. What's your lowest low?
I think my lowest lows in competition have been more if I've been disappointed in myself and my performance. I didn't perform the way that I should have performed in a fight. Or I didn't prepare the way I should have prepared for a fight. Resulting in a crap performance, In my last MMA fight, I didn't cut weight properly. And it's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. I just didn't fight good. I fought well for like the first sort of minute and a half. I take him down, do my thing as I would always do. The second we stood back up, I had no energy. My arms were gone. My legs were gone. My lungs were gone. I was literally on an empty tank fighting the rest of the fight thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be a long night in the office, And if you watch it, I'm very on the back foot and I try a lot of pretty desperate moves to just try and win, if that makes sense.
I'm with you.
Because I didn't have the energy to do what I would properly do to get the way I would want it to go, So that was rubbish. And now looking back, knowing that has been my last fight, makes it even more disappointing. Only because I've not had a chance to redeem it.
So you still fight today, but not in mixed martial arts. It's jiu-jitsu you do today.
I just do grappling now.
Grappling,
so,
yeah.
Judo and jiu-jitsu. I've reset my focus. Having a bit of a reality check that I'm just not going to be able to, keep up with the general life of a fighter these days. So...
And one of the big reasons for that is you're a dad now. You've got 3 kids. And
absolutely.
I think one of the most powerful things I want people to take away from this podcast, it's certainly it's the main reason I asked you to come on, because I find the whole fighting thing so interesting. Big fan, love watching it. Done a little tiny bit of training myself. I find the whole world, I think it's super positive.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about your story is that you have passed your passion onto your kids.
Yep.
And I see the way your boys, is it both your boys are doing it now?
Yeah, both boys compete, yeah.
Both boys competing and how old are they?
So they're at the moment they're 9 and 5.
So they're young.
They're young lads, and they've trained since January last year. So they've nearly trained for 2 years already, which is quite scary, really.
Do you think they've got natural ability?
I do, yeah. It's hard with the younger one because at 5, kids quite really take to it. Like head in, wanting to learn everything, really competing hard, just because they're very easily distracted, boys at that age. So with my eldest, I actually tried him off with kickboxing when he was about 5, and because they didn't engage so much. It would be like you have to do a drill, but you wait in a line behind the other kids, and then you do your combo, and then you go back to the line. Whilst he's in the back of the line, he's doing roly-polies on the mat. He's doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't engaging. His mind was everywhere else. And in the end, we were just like, oh, look, we're going to stop him. Because he was getting like, oh, can you stop doing that? Can you stop doing this? So we were like, we'll just stop him doing it for now. But then I started him with the jiu-jitsu, and he has just taken to it.
Loves it.
Absolutely loves it. I don't even ask him, does he want to train? He tells me, right, are we training tonight? Oh, it's Thursday. We're going to judo and scrap class tonight. He knows the schedule that we do on the days that we go, where we'll go on that day, you know? And he just absolutely chomps at the bit to go and do it. Like,
talk to me about, you spoke about anxiety, the anxiety you felt before you had your first fight. How did that differ I mean, do you feel a similar level of anxiety the first time you watched your boy fight?
as a parent, oh my God, it's horrendous. I was like, heart was in my mouth the whole time.
I can imagine.
It's through being proud of them, but not wanting them to get hurt, but not wanting them to lose, just do the best they can. But, you know, you've got to not be upset with them if they don't win, because not everyone wins. In a competition, you know, you get first, second and third, but there are people that don't get on the podium. You know, people are going to just come straight up lose, and that could be anyone. You just don't know your luck on, you know, not your luck, but you don't know what's going to happen on the day, you know? So, especially as a parent, you're like, oh, I was all over the shop.
What was your boy's first, you know, first fight? Was it like did he go to like a comp or?
Yeah, so it was in Cwmbran, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it was Cwmbran Stadium. It was a all-stars competition, jiu-jitsu competition. There was set to be 4 or 5 of them in the category. And the way it had all worked out, one lad had turned up late and the category didn't play out how a category normally would. And basically my lad fought 3 times back to back with very little rest, even almost like 1 minute in between, when you're supposed to have like a full fight's worth of time in between your fights.
Yeah.
So he had fought back to back to back, and he had fought the first lad, won on points. Fought the second lad, went on submission, and then on the third fight, this lad that hadn't even fought yet, in the final, straight up, just got straight to the final, a bye to the final. Hadn't even fought yet, fresh as a daisy. My boy was a bit tired. They were fighting. They had a hell of a scrap. It was awesome to watch. They were having a hell of a scrap. My boy nearly chokes him out cold. And as the refs like stood over the top, because with arm bars and stuff, they'll stop it really quick. But I don't know whether they just thought he wasn't really being choked, but he was going proper red, this kid, like, you know. And as the ref stood over and he would normally like stop it, my boy lets go and the lad just starts fighting him still because the ref's not said stop.
Right.
And my boy went on to lose on points then. So he had a silver that comp for his first comp.
How did he feel?
He was happy he got the medal. He was happy he got silver, but he was gutted he didn't get gold because he thought, you know, he had choked that boy and the ref had stopped it.
Well, he was close enough to getting gold.
Yeah, and he was on the door, but just didn't make the cut, like, you know. And he went on a few comps after that to just have what he was calling like a silver medal curse. He just kept getting silver for a few comps after that, and it was really frustrating him. And when he won his first gold, oh my God, was he happy. He was like,
I can imagine,
over the moon, man. It was a proud moment, like, you know?
I bet you were over the moon as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was proud of him to get his silvers.
Of course, man.
But the first one for the gold, knowing how bad he wanted it, was like, I was really, really pleased for him. Really pleased.
Is it something you'd encourage other parents to sort of maybe try and implement into their kids' lives?
Absolutely. They don't have to compete. You know, not everyone will compete because competition isn't for everyone. There is another side to your training when you compete in anything, like, you know. But I would 100% say that people should take their kids and put them in martial arts. 100%. Because it's a huge social thing. They make loads of friends. They learn self-discipline. They learn to strive for things, you know. They look for their next promotion if they're in belts. You know, if they're competing, they're looking for their next comp. They're looking for the medals. They want to win. They're pushing themselves, you know. It just teaches kids so much. It teaches everyone so much. I think that everyone should at least try a martial art. Doesn't matter what one it is, just try one, like, you know, and just see give it a go, actually give it a chance and see the difference it makes, like, you know, because it is huge.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I'm interested in some of the elements of what you've experienced, because it's outside of a cage or a ring. The stuff you do in there is illegal. You know, you go and punch someone in the mouth out on the street. You know, you've got the police knocking on your door.
Yeah.
So the actual experience, the physical human experience of what you're doing, which is why I was asking when you were on top of that guy. You know, what does that feel like with a crowd of people watching you? I mean,
because it's not something you would experience anywhere else.
Exactly.
And a lot of people always struggle when they stop fighting. I don't think I've ever met someone that has stopped fighting that doesn't miss it. Ever. If anyone has ever experienced that, I can tell you now that they will say they miss that feeling.
Yeah.
And I can be 99.9% confident on anyone. And you see a lot of it. A lot of huge fighters like Ricky Hatton or someone like that. Prince Nassim, sorry. They've stopped fighting. They've blown up. They're depressed. They're drinking. They're doing this. They're doing that because they're just constantly trying to chase that high of what fighting feels like and that crazy emotional roller coaster that it is. Like, you know?
I think it ultimately, you know, it goes back to what I sort of said at the start. I think you lose that purpose. You lose that connection of the guys you're in the ring with, training, fighting. You know, that I think off camera you describe it as a brotherhood. The relationship you have with those people that you're turning up and training with on a very regular basis, and you're beating the fuck out of one another.
Oh, absolutely battering each other, and you enjoy it, and you're laughing about it.
You build that connection, which is something you just wouldn't have. I mean, you said sometimes the bond feels stronger between those guys than 100%. Than friends you've had throughout your whole life.
It's really weird, but you just feel like complete closer than blood, like, you know. It's quite strange, but you just have a complete respect for each other that you just don't even get within family.
I get it.
It's nuts, like, but it's amazing, you know.
It's powerful, man. I think it's really positive, and I think now's a nice time to kind of blend the conversation into, I suppose, where my initial idea of this podcast came from. Where I first properly met you was so you. I don't want to steal your sandwiches.
Yeah.
You explained, but you basically started a charity in Chepstow, haven't you? Through, I'll let you take over the conversation.
So it would have been December of the year just gone. We had a local lad pass away. I think it impacted everyone like massively, and we've had so much of it in this area, especially.
Suicide.
It's mental. It's really sad, and it's
horrific,
a huge dark cloud over sort of Chepstow, Caldecott, that sort of area, and I was just sick of it. I'm sick of it happening all the time, and you know, just losing people. So I put a status up saying, you know, something needs to be done. I'm going to take this torch and run with it and at least start something off. And I had messaged my friend Jordan, who already runs You're Never Alone up in the valleys, and he's doing amazing. So I messaged him and he said, you know, give me permission, start a Chepstow branch for You're Never Alone. So I'd put the status up. Another lad, Carl, had messaged me and said, like, oh, I'd absolutely love to be in on this with you. So I was like, yeah, not a problem. Let's do it, you know. It would probably help to have two of us. And then he said he had a friend that would be really passionate about it as well, which was Big Al. And I was a little bit cautious at first, if I'm honest, just because I had this idea and I didn't want too many people standing on each other's feet.
I get it, man.
Because you never know when someone's gonna, maybe I didn't know them.
You never met the guy, had you, at that point? And
you don't know how it was gonna work out.
Exactly,
you know?
Of course, man. I get that.
But it's worked out absolutely superb, and the lads have done amazing. We've done a lot of fundraising for them, mainly throughout the summer. It's hard in the winter with, like, you can't do fetes and things like that and fundraisers, but we did a lot of it through the summer, and we're really starting to take off now. And it's finding a nice place, which is good. It's hard because, you know, things are still happening in the area, which is just like...
I think ultimately, man, I personally think the charity's amazing. I think anyone that's trying to combat the issue, you know, I take my hat off to. I think the issue is with ill mental health and suicide in particular, is that sometimes we try and apply logic to it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can be logical with it because it's so... I just don't think as human beings we get it. I don't think we understand the answer.
I don't think we ever will, you know?
Potentially.
Because, I mean, you can't put yourself in that person's shoes.
Exactly that.
And that's what makes it the hardest thing. And, you know, I've lost double digits of people now. Easily. I'm only 32. I've been to more funerals than I have weddings, like, you know? And that's what really impacts me every time. We lose another person and it just gets worse. And that always triggers me, like, always triggers me. I always take a huge hit whenever I see someone else has gone, like, you know. But that's what you got to fight against, you know. That's the mission of the group, is just to help people, give them a space, just to come on a weekly basis, just get things off their chest, have a vent. They don't have to spill their life to us. That's not what it's for, you know. Even if they just want to be with someone and forget what's going on for an hour or two, then, you know, in my eyes, that's a win. So
I admire it, man. And like I said, I think anyone who's trying to do something to combat the issue is... They got a supporter in me.
Yeah, it's a tough game to do. You know?
I think to kind of use the word fight there and use the word combat as well, a mission, and I just think, you know, when I look at like the fact that you're trying to fight this demon that unfortunately is taking so many people, often at very young ages as well.
Yeah, far too early. Far too early than they should have ever gone.
Exactly, mate. Exactly that. Do you think fighting has had a really positive impact on your mental health?
For me, it's my escape from reality. Like, you know, when I'm training, I don't think about life. All I think about is my technique, what I'm gonna do next, and how I'm gonna fight. You know, I don't think about anything else in the world, and I think everyone needs that.
Does it still give you that purpose and connection?
Oh, massively, absolutely. But I've always done it to prove to myself I can do it. Like I said, I'm not a confrontational person, but I've always wanted to know myself, you know, if something happens, especially now as a family man, can I protect myself and my family? I like to think I can now. I mean, there's loads of people out there that can kick my ass, you know. I am far from the best in the world, but, you know, I'm better than your average Joe. And that, you know, sometimes that's the difference, like, you know.
Well, exactly that, mate. And I think as well, you look at your response to, you know, why you started the Chepstow chapter of You're Never Alone. Some of that's got to have come from, well, from an outsider's perspective. It seems like some of that must come from your experience of you get up, you know, you talk about those losses you had and you had to get up and keep going again. You know, you talk about the first time you kickboxed and you lost and you got up and went again. And I know that you said that you've got a wall with all your trophies, yeah. And in the middle you've got a...
Yeah, so I got my picture in the middle and it just says keep moving forward. That's all it says, keep moving forward.
And sometimes I think I think it can be that simple, and I think it's powerful, man. Because I know you've said that off camera to me that is something you really think about in the dark days for yourself.
Well, it's advice I give to a lot of people as well, and it's because a lot of people dwell on the past, things they've done, things that have happened, but it's in the past. You know, you can't change it. It's happened. You can only change what you're doing in the current time and what you do moving forward, and how you hold yourself within that. You know, that's all we can do.
Totally agree with you, mate.
So you keep moving forward because you take a lesson from the past, you take that, and you move on. You know, obviously it's easier said than done, especially in the dark times. But if you keep moving forward, it will always get better. Like, you know, it's always worked for me, and for a lot of people I know that do struggle. You know, they're still going. You know, my favorite, from one of my favorite motivational speakers, I've said in the group before, and I've said to you, I literally brainwash myself with motivational videos like all the time. Whenever I'm like having a hard day and my mind's off, I listen to a motivational video or multiple. And one of my favorite speakers is Les Brown.
I love Les Brown, yeah.
Les Brown's amazing. He's
brilliant, man.
So good. And my favorite Les Brown quote is, if you're gonna fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And oh man, I fucking love that. That is so good.
It's powerful, man. It's simple, but sometimes we overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it like that, I agree, man.
But it's a way of thinking, and you know, we've had Emma in the group, who's been amazing, and she does a lot of she's a CBT therapist, a cognitive behavior therapist, qualified therapist. She's amazing, so good. And CBT therapy is all about your trail of thought, and you know, negative thoughts lead to negative outcomes. If you're going to be negative about things, you are attracting that negative outcome, because you're not thinking of anything else. You're only thinking, oh, I'm going to lose. So you're not going to perform to your potential in a fighting perspective. You know, if you go out there thinking you're going to lose, you've already lost. You know, especially when you don't perform then. You know, and it's
and perhaps that links to that point of, you know, when people say that thing of, when I get angry, I see red.
Yeah.
I suppose it's almost, it kind of interlinks with that, because you saying that you're not a confrontational person, but you'll get into you'll happily get in a cage with someone and
Yeah.
go at one another. But you kind of make the point that it's all about control.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it? Because when you're angry, when you let anger take control of you, you are giving up control.
You're complete, and you have no control over yourself.
Exactly.
You don't know what's going to happen then. If he's quite controversial, but if you watch Jordan Peterson,
I'm a fan of
some of his I really like, and there's one again that I love, and he basically says the most dangerous man in the room is the one that is capable of the most violence but completely controls himself. That is all under wraps, never lets it out.
He
doesn't need to let it out.
Better to be a
warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah,
to be honest, is for me is a fighter's way of life. You fight to fight, but you fight in your discipline, and you fight when it's the time to fight. So you're fighting in the cage on a fight night, you're fighting in the ring on a fight night, you're fighting on the mats for jiu-jitsu or judo or wrestling or anything like that. You know, there is a time and a place for that, and you know that would be your war. But to come unprepared through life, really, you are the gardener in the war. You're not prepared for it, and you know, it's like a samurai way of living, really, isn't it? You know, you carry yourself by a strict code, carry yourself well, you stay disciplined, you know, and that's what I try and live by. You know, I hate the confrontation. Try and be as level as I can, see both sides of stories. You know, don't cause trouble. and I would like to think most people see me as that, you know.
I certainly do, mate, because I think before I met you, I had this perspective. Like I'd seen videos of you fighting online. I thought, he looks like a tough bastard, he does. And I thought he looks like someone that'd be like, yeah, if I met him, he'd be like, I don't know why. I think we
carry an image, don't you?
Yeah, but it's almost like I think you kind of see it in films and things, or you know, the sort of way it's conditioned into us people, you'd expect that person to be angry, confrontational, kind of in your face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I met you and I thought, wow, what a pleasant guy. Like, you're so nice. And
I once, right, this is probably the funniest time I've ever had it, because I'm not like, you know, I'm not hugely out there. I fought on amateur and on quite a lot of shows, but, you know, I've never been on like TV and stuff. Yes, I'm on YouTube and I've been around Facebook and stuff, but I'm not like massively famous. A lot of my old teammates are, and they're at a status now where like people should recognize them in the street, you know. But I was never like that. But I had helped my mate, right, this one time. He went for a white collar MMA fight, and he'd been training with me for years. His name's Julian. He's ace guy, absolutely great guy. And we were in the car on the way back, right, coming back home now from Julian's fight. He had won. He fought like an absolute beast. And one of the other lads in the car, blokes, they were a bit older than me. They were like, "Oh yeah, there's this Karpinski guy from round Chepstow in there. He's meant to be an absolute beast." I was sat in the back of the car. He didn't have a clue it was me. Like, you know, I was sat in the back of the car with my mate Julian. My mate Julian was pissing himself.
I can imagine.
He was like, "That's Tom Karpinski sat in the back," and the guy was like, "Oh my god, that's you." Whoa! Oh my god! And he didn't know how to react then, because he thought it was like, he didn't know if he'd like upset me or anything.
Lucky he didn't slay
you.
I
was pissing myself. I was just like, you know, like I'm not a bad person or an angry person. Like, you know, I'm the complete opposite. Like, it just made me laugh. That's probably the most, like, I could imagine what a famous person would be like. You know, that reaction, and I just pissed myself. I thought it was so funny. Like,
I get it, man.
You know, it is that persona.
Lucky he didn't slate you.
Yeah, can you imagine? I'd have been like, "Oh, but that's me. What the hell?"
Just to kind of like, one of the things, I go back to You're Never Alone. Because we have a lot, like, on the podcast. I think a lot of our listeners and viewers, they're like local to where we are. Yeah. I think it'd be helpful just if you give like a brief sort of, I don't know, explanation of like when the group's held.
Yep.
And if there's any lads that are listening that want to get involved with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is open to anyone that's going through a hard time, or even if you're not, and we've had people, you know, that might not have such a social life, or they're new to the area and they want to meet some people. Come along. It's 7 till 9 every Thursday night in the Two Brewers pub in Chepstow. It's not in the main bar or anything like that. There's no alcohol to be consumed during meets. It is in the function room to the side. We are completely away from everyone else. There's free hot drinks. We bring biscuits. You know, you can have a soft drink or something on us as well. And we're starting to bring a structure into the chats now. At first, being a bit new to it all, it was a bit like an ad hoc meetup. And then we started to try and bring a structure in. So now we have a structure in place for the chats. Just to try and focus the chat so it doesn't go more into a mother's meeting and you actually start to address things, you know. But it is free to anyone that wants to, you know, needs help, wants help, or might not want help but knows that really they need the help, or just wants to make some friends. Come along. We do fishing meetups sometimes. It's the winter now, so we've not really done that, but in the summer we will look for fishing meetups again. We provide everything, the rods, the baits, everything, you know. We put it all on for people out there. We have done a bushcraft day before, and we have done a like evening out at the driving range as well. So we do multiple things to try and cater for everyone. You know, just so, you know, they know they're never alone.
I absolutely love that, man. And lads, if you are listening, I've been and experienced some of the stuff they do, and cannot sing their praises enough. So if you are struggling, please do engage with it. It might help. That sounds like super positive, man. I obviously just wanted to kind of get that out there, just in case there are any guys listening that are struggling. I think that'd be really positive. Just to kind of wrap up, I know we mentioned potentially, but we wanted to film this in the gym, didn't we? And I think ideally, I'd like to do like a follow up.
Maybe we could do like a shorts of teaching you some chokes.
Yeah.
Just to you see like these spoofy videos and stuff, but maybe we can get one in the gym.
I'll be honest, mate. There's
a gist of what it's like. And,
there's probably a large proportion of the viewers and listeners that would like to see you kick the fuck out of me.
But it would just be like, we'll do some grappling. I'll teach you some submissions. Everyone can watch. Maybe I don't know, I try and choke you or you choke me, but everyone can see the reaction of what it's actually like and some funny things around that. That would probably be cool.
I know Gus wants to see me get beaten up. Is that right, Gus?
Want to sort out a situation where you can get some men underneath you?
I can confirm that's not true. Ideally, Mike will have finished his compassionate leave for
and he could come up as well
for gains reasons, and we can
get the whole gang up.
It'd
be sick.
Yeah, that's coming up actually. That's going to be a future content.
That would be wicked. Stay
tuned for that.
Yeah.
Tom, I just want to say a massive thank you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. First of all, I really respect anyone that comes on and gives their time to us, shares his story, especially when it's always in a really positive vein, and that's exactly what yours is. And I look at what you're doing now with You're Never Alone and the other boys, and I hugely admire it. And I just say good luck to you with your future.
Yeah, thank you.
Future fights, all the sort of stuff you're involved in. Same with your boys.
Yeah.
Looks like you're all smashing it.
Yeah, we got 2 competitions coming up now in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So we're in a final rush for the end of the year now.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 competitions lined up. My boy's got 1 at the moment. He'll probably have another one by the end of the year as well. On top of that, so it's going to be good. Trying to finish on that high. We got a few personal goals that we really want to hit. So it's just seeing if we can get that done now by the end of the year. If not, we take it into next year, But it would be cool to get them done.
Massive respect, man. Hugely admire it.
No, thank you.
That just leaves me to say goodbye. If you could give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe, hugely appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.